Hi, everyone. I hope you're all doing well this evening. My name is Suzanne Mose, and I'm the head of curatorial services here at the Niagara Falls Museums. Before we get moving with tonight's program, I'd like to take a minute to acknowledge that the Niagara region of Ontario is located on the traditional shared territory of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Chinatun peoples. The Chinatun people have called these lands home for thousands of years, and more recently, the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee have been sharing the land as one dish, one spoon, treaty territory. So with those important and very relevant words being said, I'd like to thank you all very much for joining us for our third of 4 talks in this series. My colleague, Darcy Belanger, will be your host this evening. Darcy works with us here at the museum as the Indigenous Programs Coordinator. And this event is 100% his brainchild. It's only through the people that Darcy knows and his hard work and his generosity that we've been able to put this series of talks together. So my sincere thanks go out to Darcy. That's almost it for me. One little bit of housekeeping that I have is we're going to hold all of our questions until at the end of the presentation. So you'll see somewhere on your screen a Q&A function, probably on the top or maybe on the bottom. But once you find that, we can use that to speak to Grandmother Renee, and she'll do her best to answer any questions that you might have. We're also going to leave the chat function open, and that's more for you as participants to just sort of chat back and forth. And I think that's it. So I'm going to hand it over to Darcy now, and thank you all again for coming.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. Welcome, everybody. If you've been following us from the beginning, that's amazing, and thank you so much for continuing following us. Tonight we have Grandmother Renee Thomas Hill, is of the Mohawk Nation Turtle Clan from the 6 Nations of the Grand River Territory. As a Haudenosaunee woman, she is responsible to carry on the teachings of our way of life. She carries the message of peace, power, righteousness, and sacredness. Grandmother Renee shares the message as an Indigenous woman, mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, educator, grief support worker, historian, storyteller, traditional counselor, traditional plants, food, medicines, agriculturist, and most of all, a spiritual being. I would definitely like to welcome everyone to meet and listen to Grandmother Renee. And like Suzanne had mentioned, we will save the questions till last. But if something pops up, you could throw it in the Q&A as we move forward. But then we will go down the list at the end of after her talk. So please. Put your hands together for Grandmother Renee. Thank you very much.
Good evening. It is an honor to be invited to your to the area. I am very grateful that it's taken place at this time when we're, as they would say in our way, you're coming of age. You're going within, and we would originally call it you're fasting. You're on a fast. You're going without. And so with this time, the ancestors have made it possible that we take time to go inward and listen to our spirit. We have ignored it for the longest time. We've only listened to our mind. Now it's time to connect to our spirit. And our spirit has been talking for a long time of wanting you to be connected to your heart and to your mind, them two working together, but only in the past, only this has been working. And we need to get back to listening to spirit. And spirit has been with every one of us. Spirit has come to us in our dreams, in a message, in a symbol, and someone's words. It's just like a key, a clue, the key that will open up more awareness. And so we have to be alert. And so I like to say, Sego Sewat Guego, Ganadisa Youngets. I was born into culture. I was born with grandparents, knowing at first my grandmothers were residential, but I was very fortunate that they married into families that had the culture. And so my grandmothers learned what it was to be a human being. You notice I said a human being? And a human being is what we all forget. And that's what we need to be reminded. You know, we have many different nations, many different clans, many different labels. But the one that we should really consider is we are a human being. And we were given instructions when we were born. When we came to this earth, we were carrying instructions. We came to this earth as a human being to learn how to walk with spiritual understanding. We were to listen to our dreams. And so these dreams have manifest through many people. Even our young ones are dreaming. And they tell us that our dreams are the voices of our grandfathers and our grandmothers. And I've always had that gift of dreaming. I have seen many people before I meet them. I have seen many places that I come, and people call them deja vu. Deja vu. And so all these are showing you where you're going to be. And so as a little one, I always ask questions. How come? Why? I always ask these questions, and my grandpa would say, "You're going to be a teacher." I laughed. I said, "No, I don't want to be a teacher. No, Grandpa, I don't want to be a teacher. That's a lot of responsibility." He says, "No, you're going to be a teacher." And so I was always, just like you, I felt different. And that's the way we're supposed to feel, because we came here from a very powerful place, a spiritual world. We came here as spiritual beings. And that's why we're supposed to feel different, because we have to use this earth walk. And so when we come here, this birthing right here, our soft spot, that's our relation, our connection to the spirit world. And it connects to all of them. And so we're always getting these messages. And no one is ever been abandoned. That's that English word. To us, we always belong. And so this is why I'm very grateful for giving this opportunity to share. Because as a little one, I had dreams, and these dreams manifest of who I am now. I dreamt of all these things, just like everybody else. And so these dreams came to me in symbols. And that is very important, because what it did was, it has guided me to give the message. And this message is for all of us. And as we talked about the dish with one spoon, this has a lot of meaning. Look at how it extends. And he talked about this dish with one spoon, and dish with one spoon, but this is the most important. And so each dream I had, I was given just this much, a clue. And so I kept looking for these clues. I kept looking, and I asked a lot of the people, the older people, what does this symbol mean? And so I was directed to as you know, I have a cousin. My dad's first cousin is Jake Thomas. And so it's not unusual that I am here with the message. And the message is from the grandmothers. This message came because we need it. We need to hear we need to hear the grandmothers' voices again. And so because of that, I have created a part of my life. It's called Grandmother's Voices, Grandmother's Voice. And this is a time when we need to be reminded of how to be a good human being, because the Creator and all our ancestors have always loved us. They have given us blood memory. I'm only going to remind you because you have all this inside you. You have this knowledge, and I'm just going to wake it up. And so the dream begins. And then one of the dreams that I had was I would meet these people, and I never knew who they were. And they came into my life later on. I have these people that were to support me and to share their knowledge with me. And it was always at this big, long building. And then that was the longhouse. And so I had a valuable gift. I had an opportunity when there was a lot of the older people. And when I sat there, I listened, and I always looked for symbols, how we dress. I was looking for those answers. Because you see, I had a dream. And in my dream, it was of long ago. This dream was so real. I could smell, I could feel, I knew that it was late October. And I knew that we had just finished supper. And the fire was burning, and we were all listening to one of the grandmothers as she was speaking. And she was drawing on the ground with her stick. And then she called me. You know, they were speaking in a language, but I understood. And I understood, and so she called me to the front where she was. And she started talking. She started using symbols. And then she said, the more that I use this, the more that I will remember the message that I'm supposed to take or to give. And so I woke up 4:30, going just before 5, and I have a book and I write my dreams. In my dream, I write this down. And so it is that the grandmother had left a message. What is the symbol of a grandmother to you? To us, it is the moon. And that is why it's so important that she's up there. She's watching over every one of us. She knows everything that we're going through. And so she gives me and you a message on how to be a good human being. This grandmother went through a lot. And that's why I had to learn the creation story. And in that creation story was all these gifts, what you would call today coping skills. What to eat, how to handle yourselves when your mind was busy, what you had to do when you were being persuaded to go on a path that was not good for you. And we call them tricksters today. And you know, there are many tricksters about that has caused us to abuse ourselves, to abuse our minds, our hearts, our body, and our spirit. And so she was given those teachings. And that's why all this falls into place. And this is why we have the words peace, power, and righteousness. We have to learn how to have peace again. That's what the grandmothers are saying. No more, they said. Because you know the first symbol of no more? It was the last quarter. And that's how I drew on my paper. I drew the symbol, and I was going to tear it off, and I was going to do it right, because this has to come first, then this, and then this. But it was just like she was speaking to me, and she says, yeah, that means no. This means no more. That's it. No more are we to continue to abuse ourselves. You must tell them no more. They must stop, because we've given them a gift. They have all their gifts, but they need to do something. And what is that? What does the moon do? It makes the people feel very emotional, doesn't it? Even earlier today, we tried to do something. This is 3 days before, and I'm very grateful we're doing it before the moon changes, because many of you are feeling like this. Many of you are feeling like this. Many of you don't understand. And you've been given a label. And that's what the grandmother says, yeah, stop it. No more. No more those labels. We sent you as a human being. You are a human being. You are to experience life. You are not to have these labels. Many of us carry labels, and we put them on ourselves. You see, I used to think of those words, and I have to be mindful that I don't say those words, because when I say those words, it affects my spirit. And that's why our people never swear, because when you use negative words, you hurt your spirit. When you use that abusive language, it hurts you before it hurts that other person. And so grandma says, no more. You know, grandmas, they always went like this. The other symbol is when they put their hands on their hips. That means that's enough. Enough, they said. And so every time I use the moon, I use those symbols. And that's why it was so important. That's the last quarter. The grandmother said, no more. You are going to come out in that next phase. You are going to be opened. That is the first quarter. How many of you know about the moon, the cycles of the moon? This is what we need to get back to, because this is where we get peace. This is why our health is so in chaos. This is what the grandmothers are saying. Our children are dying too young. Our people, our men are dying, and our women are dying too young. That's not what you're here for. You are here to hold up that fire that we passed on to you. Again, that symbol, you see that last and the first quarter, you bring them together, and that represents that fire in us, that fire. And when you put that fire together, I want you to try it right now with your hands together. What do you feel? You feel heat. You feel that love and kindness. You feel that goodness. And so when you are troubled, don't you go like this? The grandmas do that. Rub that over your forehead to take away all those negative things. The old people would always put their hands over their hearts when there was all that trauma. And they would take a deep breath. And then it was so important, because I heard that when I heard the great law many times. Because the last part of it, the peacemaker says, I have given you all your instructions, and I am now ready to leave. But I will be a breath away from you. And for the longest time, I always thought, just like everybody else, the peacemaker is there. But then I realized one time when I was very carrying heaviness, what did I do? I went, oh. That's what we need to do again, as the grandmother said, we're not breathing right. My grandma said, we're running around on flat tires. We're not making any movement because we're tired, we're exhausted. It's because we're not breathing right. We need to breathe. That's how you came into this world. And anytime you have pain, you go, and it's to bring life back into your being. And so this is why the grandmothers have been, every time I've used these symbols, it's just more and more comes through. And it so happened that I started to do, I was told I needed to do the moon ceremony. And I was guided on how to do it. And so then I was given this, because now you see, they have influenced every part of my life. When I have children, and they are the ones that said, Mom, come to our school. They don't know nothing about us. And so I would go into their school because this is what my child had asked. And so I went. And so you see, my children are the ones that give me wings. And that's what every child is to remind us of how to be a good human being, to share. And so one of the things that I did was I went and shared our knowledge. And you know, the first thing they asked about our rain dance. And I was so glad because you see, I said, yes, many of you are sad when it rains. You have forgotten because you've forgotten how good it feels to play in mud. I said, that is the simplest gift. Today, when you hear it on the news, your emotions get angry, you get upset because it's going to rain. You know, when you see that rain, your heart is supposed to feel so much love because the Creator sent that rain to renew us. He brought that rain to renew the land, the air, and the water. Aren't we lucky? Because it says that man will forget and it will cause much pollution, much damage to the children, their coming faces. That's what they meant. And this is why we had all our treaties, those symbols, was to know that these symbols have many words behind them with a lot of love. And it wasn't just for our people, it was for all people. So nobody would ever suffer disease, sickness, heartaches, wars. All this came because the ancestors have been trying to help you to understand life. If you watch the moon, the stars, and the natural world, you see the universe is our teacher. This is where all our knowledge comes from, and it's not lost. Right now behind me, you see my books, my library. Those are my elders, the ones I have met. Those are their voices. So when I want to have a conversation, I go and pick a book up because that's what one of my elders said. That was Jake. I said, what am I going to do when I get to be at the top? When all of you have gone, who am I going to talk to? He says, go to the library because by then they will have many words that we have said. So I guess we're not listening the way we should be listening. And this is why dreams are important to you. Listen to your dreams. Many I know have nightmares. Well, that's one thing. That's an English term of it, nightmares. My dad, when I had nightmares, he says, that's a teaching. You got to stop running. There's fear. You got to turn around and face your fears. So it happens. It happens to all of us. I used to wake up crying because I used to have these wolves chasing me. And I kept running till finally I turned around. It must have been after the fourth dream. I turned around and I faced them. And they became like companions, like my pet. And you know, that symbol was those 4 wolves. They are people that have come into my life to support the work that I'm doing. One is my ceremonial brother. He helps me. And so there is another that helps me. He is of a wolf clan. And then there is another one. He is of the wolf clan. And so you see, those nightmares that we have, they're really the opposite of what we know. And so the grandmother said again, you gotta face your fears. Don't be running. Man created fears to take away your power. That's when you lose your peace. You need to get back to having that peace. Because when you start having fear, it affects your spirit, your body. And every part of your body was made so unique that every feeling that you receive affects a part of your body. Did you know that? It affects you. It affects, when you have anger, it affects your, guess what? Where it affects you. How many of you have back pain? When you hold a lot of anger, it's going to be held in your back. And this is why Grandma, she comes 4 times. And that first time she comes, she wants to pull that out of you. She wants you to cry. She wants you to get rid of those emotions that is taking away your peace, taking away your power, taking that feeling of being sacred, of feeling good. And so we need to remember how to eat, what we eat. And that's what the grandmothers are saying. Stop it. You are killing our children. Look at the food that you're putting into them. It's not good. It's not good. This is what's causing a lot of sickness. Oh, they're very sad because we have forgotten how to eat a lot of foods that was just the medicines, because there's a teaching behind all those foods. And that's where our food comes from the sky world. And every one of those seeds have their responsibility. You know, we are very blessed that those seeds are still carrying on their responsibility. It is good to see that all these things, because we are feeling that there's a need to get back to the earth. So in doing these moon ceremonies, and one of the things was I worked at a treatment center. This is why I got the name Grandma. Because the clients there said, you remind me of my grandma. Or I wish you were my grandma. Can I call you Grandma? And so that's how I got my name, Grandma, Grandmother Renee. And so I would share them, the teachings, the stories. And one of the things I said, we need to be reconnected to the moon, especially the men too, because they have forgotten that relationship on how to be a good human being. Men have remained silent, and it hurts. This is where they've been. Grandma says, it's tight there. It's like they choked themselves. Grandma says, they have to let it. Bring that out. Bring that out. The animals have shown us that. How many have heard a dog cry? How many heard an animal cry? How many heard the loon cry? You know, crying was a gift, but it was labeled weakness. It is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of strength. It is a sign of strength. And if you put those 2 moons together, that is a drop of water that falls. And that is what we are made of, that water. So I'm telling you all this to help you to reconnect to the place of water, fire and water. And so this is why I'm gradually getting into this story. And so I said, the men need to come and join us. The men need to protect us on that outside circle. The men need to do their responsibility on keeping that fire. The men and the women need to come together. And so over that time, sharing a lot of, I would have moon ceremonies. And there was a young man that came that one time, and I said, you know, all our knowledge is going to be validated soon. And he was so excited, he couldn't wait. He said, I got something to tell you, Grandma. I said, you can wait. We'll wait till the ceremony is done. And so he was so excited. He said, Grandma, he said, there's a man that is validating our knowledge about water, the power of water, the healing aspects of water. This water was given to us to bring back that peace, to bring back renewal of life. And so he said, you know, he's a male and he knows about Indigenous. He understood that water has the power like we had talked about. This is what many people have forgotten, the power of water, how it is to heal, how it is to renew us. Because you see, even the water, its spirit has been contaminated. And so this is why a lot of us are feeling, because we don't want to drink the water anymore. But we have the power of our words to heal that water. Just like we can heal all the people that we meet, we talk to them in kind words. That's what the grandmothers are saying. Quit abusing your language, the language of a human being. You are to share kind words. And if you use words that hurt, it will hurt you before it hurts other people. It will destroy you. So this is why water is so important. This is why the moon is so important, because the grandmothers want us to cry, to let go of all our pain. And you know, we're stubborn. That's why grandma says, yeah, I have to come 4 times. You're not doing it. I'm going to come. I'll come, just take a little bit off of it. Then the next one, you better watch out. I'm going to take more. And then the next one, I'll be easy again. Then the next one, I'll be. So you see, why you're feeling all these emotions is you're supposed to let it go. You're supposed to let it out. You know, I cry. It's easy to cry because it's a healing part. And I cry with joy of happiness, and I cry the joy of grief. Water that's inside me. Look up Dr. Emoto in the power of water, the healing power of water. Look at that. We knew that. And I was so, so happy to hear the words, because we've forgotten how to, you see in us, wasn't it? We have a lot of water inside us, 90% or more. And this water is to bring healing. So this is why Grandma, she's watching over you. She knows you've been stubborn. She knows you have not let go. And so she calls that what they would say self-abuse. You use negative words on yourself. I am. And no, we are supposed to say, we're not supposed to put labels on us, because we're supposed to be a human. That's what it means in our language. Original being. Original beings. That we have been given instructions on how to maintain peace, so that we will have health. And because of this teaching, I was invited to Brock University, and the women wanted to hear more of the message of the grandmother. And in those dreams, every time I use those symbols, I had asked, I would dream again, and I said, how am I to do this? I am many winters. In other words, I'm not a spring chicken anymore. And so they said, yeah, not to worry. We will send you those ones. And lo and behold, I had a young girl that came. She just had her child, the young one, baby. And she said, I would like to help you with this knowledge. And I was so grateful. I cried again. Because you see what it created. Us, we created the 13 grandmother moon, diabetes, wellness. The moon talks about wellness, talks about peace. Grandma talks about peace. And so all those dreams that I've had, I've gotten more and more. But we don't have enough time to talk about all those dreams and how they manifest into this one big, powerful message. And so now I bring forth I bring forth those messages. Our food is our medicine, and our medicine is our food. Our grandma wants us to get back to learning how to eat according to seasons. Our grandmothers want us to learn how to live with the seasons, what we should be doing. And if we hear our bodies saying bored, listen to your spirit. If your spirit's saying you're bored, that's so true, because your body is supposed to be doing. That's what brings peace, is doing, sharing. Doing things with your hands. Because this is how we would get rid of a lot of frustration. And you know what? What do they do now? They have reflexology to get rid of all those things that we keep locked up in our bodies. But our people knew that a long time ago. So we had all these understanding how it affects every part of our body. We understood about the land. We understood about the air. And so this is why it was Sodi at the time. And that was amazing how I got invited there too. It was truly amazing how the ancestors guide you to what you have to do. Because all these symbols was showing me how we need to get back to being well. One of the things that I got to do was, I had a dream that I was going to create a village, an authentic village. And you know what? I did. I created Canada, the 17th century Iroquois village in Brantford. And because of all those things of establishing, I learned more from the symbols. I understood how intelligent our people were, how they could make many things without electricity. We have become weak. We have taken away, we have given away our power. And so we've forgotten how to be well. You know, my greatest joy right now, I'm in my 70s, and the most treasured thing that I have in my heart is I can thread a needle. Oh, that makes me feel good. Because you have to eat the food that will take care of your eyes. You have to eat the foods that will take care of every part of your body. And so this is why we had all these different kinds of foods that we have. And so we created this, I like this symbol Sodi has, how we created the back of the turtle and how we created all those foods. Relearning how to get back to the land. Learning, I should say, reclaiming our original instructions on how to be well. With Sodi, they were my hands. I shared those teachings, those symbols, and I said, because our people are visual learners, we need to show nature. And so what we have created is a lot of our resources with natural world. The animals teach us. And so this is why we use a lot of our culture in restoring of our health and our wellness and well-being. And the strawberry is a good example. How many have given thanks for it? How many have said, Nyawa or miigwech to that first strawberry that you will put into your mouth? That is another one of our original instructions, is to be grateful. Learning how to be grateful for all these gifts, because you see, that's what the grandmothers are saying. Our body is taking in food that is causing more harm. And it was amazing because I heard from a scholar how our bodies are being so Just like our food. Our food can last for a long time. If our bread gets moldy, it is healthy bread because it was alive. A lot of our food, and good example was when we had I don't mean to offend anyone, but these fast foods, we had a hamburger that was 5 years old and it still looked like it was still preserved. So can you imagine what you're doing to your body? This is what's causing a lot of emotions, because you're not thinking right, because your body, the foods that you're eating is not empowering you. And this comes back to the stream. So I'm going to share with you this gift that came to me in a dream. This gift was guided by many people, bringing the pieces of puzzles together. Brian Charles is one of them, Anishinaabe. Oh, there's so many more, many that have shared. I was always looking for these symbols. Leon Zacatero, many elders from all over the 4 directions. I was invited to go to the sacred lands because there are symbols all over our lands. And I wanted to learn more. What did the grandmothers are saying? What are our ancestors saying to us? And so I kept asking. And so I was given this dream. The grandmothers are saying to the women, you stop it. You are shortening your life. You must hand back that responsibility to your children. You're doing too much. You're doing all that work. This is why you get burnt out. You are doing the things that you are to teach your children. You're not teaching them any life skills by taking away their, what you call chores. That wasn't chores to us a long time ago. It was our roles and responsibility on how to live as a human being. That we have a greater part of belonging to the world, so we support the world. So that's what Grandma says, you stop it. You're not teaching your children by not having them do any chores, not having them doing any being responsible. They're not going to be able to look after themselves when you are gone. You are giving them the wrong kinds of food, the grandmother said, because now they don't want to even, they're not even motivated. You are to look after their spirit. Give them the food that makes them run, that makes them think. So you know what we've been giving our children is a lot of beef. A lot of our animals that we're eating are residential animals. They cannot move out of their little box. They're killed before time. They're given the wrong foods, just like the residentials. And so what they have caused is a lot of sadness inside them. No longer are those animals able to run around neither like us. And so so what we're eating is the reason why we're having such sad spirits, why we're having acceptance of label. We need motivation again. We must stop it. And one of the things, as they say, is that we're letting our children stay in bed. The children need to be up first thing in the morning because this is where their medicine comes from. They are to hear that bird singing. They are to hear that bird acknowledging and being grateful. Teach your children to be grateful. And they said all these things, these holidays, these things that is happening, they're taking away the most precious thing is of being a human being. You know, Christmas was originally a time of making something by hand and giving it to someone, sharing from your heart, not from your wallet. Easter was a time when acknowledging that one that came to help. Today it is the Easter bunny, the Easter eggs, the all the candy and all the food, all the toys, all these things. And so we're becoming materialistic people. Grandma just wants you to be well. I asked a little child one time, I said, if I could be a fairy godmother, what would you want? And she said, really? I said, yes. What would you want? She said, I would want my parents to play with me. They're too busy on their phones. They're too busy. They don't have any time for me. Isn't that so true? They said the next generations are going to be less caring. Isn't that sad? That's what the grandmothers are saying. There's much, much more, but I can only share what this time gives me. And I don't mean any disrespect. I don't mean any harm. It's just the grandmothers are wanting us to brush ourselves off. And they don't want us to see us sick with a lot of sick of our hearts, sick of our minds, sick of our spirit, and most of all, how our body is breaking down with all these health problems. And so I'm so grateful because of these dreams. We were proactive. SODI, that now has come IDHC, we were helping to bring forth those grandmothers' teachings on how to live well, how to be a human being again. And one of the things is people are doing gardens. And that's the most precious thing. When I drive around in our community today, I see many gardens. I am so grateful because that's how I was raised. And I'm still grateful that I can go out there and I can do weeding. I can do all these things to put the plants in. Because this is what came about. This is the 13 moons. This is the 13 grandmothers. The top row are our ancestors, the star beings. This is a reminder that we came from the sky. The other is, the second line is of the moons. The 13 moons. So every month Grandma is watched. Every day Grandma is wanting us, is walking with us, is supporting us, is patiently waiting for us to hear. And so the bottom line is of water, the water that is in all creation. And when this was done, you notice the colors of it. It represents the sky world. It's the sky world. And this came about amazingly because I was sharing it with a friend, my dream, and I showed him some of the drawings, and he said, I will help you, but you need to get permission. So I went and I asked. I said, it's not a treaty belt. It's a wellness belt to remind our people. And it's amazing, this belt has taken me places where I never thought I would. I went to New Orleans. I went to New Orleans and I didn't think I could be there. I didn't have the money for airfare. I didn't have the money for the motel. But grandmothers wanted me to be there, and it just, poof, everything worked out. Everything worked out. I was given that opportunity to share the message of returning to peace, returning back, giving back our power to live many winters, to be well, to be well. You see, I remember what the grandmother said. Ask questions. Ask questions. When you see your doctor, ask questions. And if he doesn't give you the answer, then because our spirit wants us to be well. Our mind wants us to be well. Our heart wants us to be well. But yet, look at how many times you look at a prescription and look at the words you cannot say. The old people talk about the time that would come when we would be given these papers and we will not know how to speak that. And we will take them and it will harm us. And that's what the grandmothers are saying again. Yeah, you have medicines. And the simple medicine is releasing the waters. There are many ways that you can take care of yourself. There are many ways of looking after yourself so that you can have a good life. And this is what they want to give a gift back to you, is a gift of being well, peace, power, and righteousness. Remembering that you are a sacred being. Remembering that you have so much gifts inside you. Don't destroy it. Don't give up, because their blood in you has a lot of memories, and they're wanting you to be well. And so I want to say thank you. Thank you to the ancestors. Thank you to them that have watched over us, that have left us many messages on how to regain our power back of self-identity. You know when they say land acknowledgement? Well, we all are of the land. And that's what the Creator wanted us to know. No one's going to be an orphan. No one's going to be without. Because we will have the mother that will always take in and look after us. No matter what color we are, no matter however we've been, wherever, how we've been on the path, she'll always feed us. She'll always look after us. We'll always have a mother. And we'll always have somebody that will love us unconditionally. And so I want to say to all the mothers of the past, to all the grandmothers of the past, we are here today because of you, and we want to say thank you for giving us that blood memory and those dreams to make us resilient and to remember we are a human being. And so, welcome. This is your birthing, awakening. Oh. I could go on for more, but I'm eager to listen now.
Well, thank you so much, Grandmother Renee. That was, wow. That was very uplifting. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I would like to reach out to the audience if anyone has some questions that they would like to ask Grandmother Renee. Please in the Q&A, or if you are on Facebook Live, put one down in the comment section, and we will pass on the questions. Until then, what are your thoughts, Grandmother Renee, with I don't know if there's anything you would like to share on many of our community members that are going through the COVID-19 at this point, to kind of really to reach out and let them know that, you know, for some of us, and maybe quite a few of us, we could be going through some tough times, especially, you know, through the isolation, and if some of our community members doesn't have that family support, and if they're possibly listening, what would be something that you could share with them?
Yes, IDHC, we have Wellness Wednesday. We have different healers, teachers. All you have to do is call in. We offer support at this time. We've been doing that. We do one-on-ones still. We did one-on-ones physically. Now we have to do one-on-ones this way. And so with the phone call, but we're here to support, and in our way, I guess, we have to brush off the grief that we're carrying, and taking away that veil, because we don't have understanding, always understanding why this happened, understanding how to go through these times. And so this is why IDHC has opened its doors to help others and be there for them, to share their grief and their sadness.
But yes, one thing about IDHC is a great organization, and they have actually, if you go onto the website, they offer a lot of amazing webinars on many different topics and healing topics. So that's one I definitely would love to share with our audience. If that's something that, you know, you could continue more of taking in more webinars and getting more knowledge on what our community has to offer to the community. And, you know, IDHC, they have a lot of great leaders that work for them. And they have a lot of great leaders that work for them, and they have a lot of knowledge that they could share. We do have a question here. You talk about healing through physical work. How do you encourage those with troubles to transition their energy into gardening and other physical activity?
Someone's reading my mind. That earth is so important for grieving. When you, again, working with your hands, physical is when you break open the earth, and that's what you need, is to smell life again. That life force of all what you are made of, and working with that, breaking those big lumps of dirt or earth that's like a lump. It's just like massaging, and you're working your hands. And so what you're doing is, even you're bending, you're stretching, all these things is what you would have done with yoga. You get on the pulling weeds, sitting out there with on the grass. There again, oh, that's a good example. A lot of my clients would have anxiety. What I had asked them to do is, I said, come on, we'll go outside. I want you to lay on the ground. I want you to look up into the sky. I want you to watch the clouds. Now, I want you to just feel the coolness of that grass. I want you to feel the vibration. I said, your body is already connecting to it. And this is what I even suggest to people that have diabetes, is to take their shoes off, grab a chair, and let their feet be connected to the earth. This is what they call earthing today. We knew that a long time ago. So even the dirt, add water to it. People pay a lot of money to have a mud bath. You don't have to have a lot of money to have a mud bath. Put some water in that and listen to that. Take your shoes and your socks off and feel that mud. A lot of you will go, ooh, but once you get into it, you'll feel how good it feels to, it's just like it pulls all the negativity out of your soul. That's the bottom of your feet. It pulls out the negativity. And so even when you stepping up and down in the water, in the mud, it has a sound that we all need. And that sound is, it's like someone giving us a kiss. Someone cares. This is why children, no matter how they're dressed up, water and mud is, they know, little ones know the medicines on how to be well. It's us that have forgotten. A little child will run and play in the mud because if they feel the tension of the parents, they feel the tension of what is happening around them, their environment, they will add water. I mean, they'll run into a water and they'll splash, and that helps them. The physical land helps us. So those are some things.
Okay, great. So we have a couple more questions in the chat as well. How can we reach out to the white community that does not engage at a spiritual level? So.
Wow, they are. And that's what Grandmother's Voice is all about. I've had all different nationalities come into, I'm also involved, as I said, the Grandmother's Voices in the Halton area. We have a traveling teaching lodge that goes through the different school area or the communities. So it's like Burlington, those communities between Hamilton and Toronto. But we also have opened it up with IDHC, open it up to many that want understanding. So to me, when I speak to you, I don't know what color you are. I just know that you need support. And your heart speaks to my heart, and I know what you need. And so we are doing it. We are reaching out to many. In fact, this is what I'm doing now. I'm reaching out to other people through this method of doing one-on-ones with them.
Okay, thank you so much. The other question is, your symbols have 13 moons and 13 grandmothers. There are 12 moons in a year. What are the 13 moons?
I was waiting for that one. They've lost their relationship. We always call that the Indigenous always had 13 moons. The Indigenous people always had 13 moons. There's just like on the back of the turtle, we never called our months like January, February, March, or April, May. We labeled our season, that time, according to what was happening with nature. And so in that time, there was always these 13 changes that happened within that whole cycle of the earth rotation. So 13 has been a good number. So you add 1 and 3, it's 4.
Okay. Let's see what we have here. Okay, so she says, beautiful. Thank you, Grandmother Renee. I love that you treat people as humans, not regarding color. We do have another person just sharing her thankfulness towards you. Beautiful sharing, Grandmother Walaylan. Thank you much. Much love to you. And from Audra.
Oh, dear Yamala.
Yeah.
Well, I've been all over Southern Ontario and Northern Ontario, and I'm also working in the States too. So it's no matter where people, where the people are, as long as I can reach them, I'm there to support them.
Okay. We do have something else coming in. Much of your wisdom sounds quite Christian, and do you have a comment for that?
Oh, yes. Waiting for that one. That's the original instruction. Everybody, look, when you look at your hand, peace, P-E-A-C-E. You look at your thumb. You cannot do anything without the thumb. So we always look at it as our higher power. Okay? The 4 is the 4 colors of the world: red, yellow, black, and white. The centerpiece is our instructions. Our instructions. And every nation, every nation was to be promoting peace. That's the original instructions. And so we all been given that understanding that, however, and when we have those four different colors, the white have many languages, the black have many languages, the yellow have many languages, and the red have many languages. Just like the Mohawks have a different language than the Tuscaroras. We have different language from the Anishinaabes, yet we're of the Red Nation. And so however we refer to our higher power is okay.
That's great. Yeah, that's amazing. So I don't see nothing in the chat room just yet. So let's see. So earlier you started speaking. You were speaking on the men of our community, and you know that's something that had really caught my attention. And you know, it's the one thing of not having the resources to really to start understanding what you know, the impacts of the traumas within their lives. Either could have been from intergenerational trauma to, well, it would be there as well, but then as well as the traumas that they endured as a child, either through, could be adoption, foster care, crown ward. So if we have men listening out there, you know, that's the one thing that I find really tough, and that's one thing that I'm working towards as well, is opening up Indigenous Men's Healing Center here in Niagara to really help combat and then, you know, bring in healthiness to the men in our community as well. So I guess what my question would be is, I don't know if you could share on maybe some of the teachings of that has been handed down to you, maybe would be kind of geared to some of our men in our community, or to the men in our community. It's kind of hard to really pinpoint which area, because there's just so many areas where a lot of our men are suffering from.
Yeah.
So
Okay. I was working at the treatment center. I said we had told them never to feel ashamed by going to a treatment center. I said always it's like a teaching lodge, a healing lodge. You're coming here because you're getting back the teachings that you would have as a young person, a young man, a young woman. And so it would be your passage, right, by going into the traditional treatment center, that you would now be receiving those teachings of a young man and of a young woman. And so in those times, those first 7 years, you would be really groomed by your grandma and your grandpa, because your mom and dad would kind of be busy. So you would be really, your grandma and your grandpa would really be sharing their knowledge with you. So one of the things that we did, because the peacemaker came, because you see, we were like we are very much today. We had forgotten, I should say. We didn't lose it, we forgot. And that's what happens to everybody today. They've forgotten how to be good human beings. And so what happened was the peacemaker came because that cry from our spirit wanting to understand life and to take away the anger. So what the peacemaker did was he went to the men first. He went to those men they would call soldiers or warriors, and he talked to them. He sat with them and he talked to them, and he talked to them, to their hearts, to their spirit. And he made them feel not to be ashamed again, not to feel guilty again. He gave them back their spirit by explaining, and he created words and ceremonies to lift their spirits. And even the brushing off, what we would use is that way of, he gave us these ceremonies to, like fire. He asked them do you remember what the fire is all about? And he would have them sitting around the fire, and he would talk about the fire, that it is a man's responsibility. And if we have too much fire, we can burn and cause much damage. And then he talked about the water. He said, those are the two essence of life. And you have forgotten how to be a good fire to the water. And so that's that female and male component. And then he talked about, he says, how you've been holding a lot of this grief inside. And he also, because he spent time with them, he changed their names. He gave them upholding names. He gave them, in their names talks about a responsibility they had. And so with that, it lifted their spirit. He gave them a good purpose again. He reminded them that they were here to be a good human being. And so when he talked to them, he told them all their things that they were going through. I understand what you're feeling. I understand how you are right now. And that's why we say, that's what I tell those ones that come to the treatment. I said, this is amazing, because you're going to be a powerful teacher. Each of us chose our life before we come here. And so this is what the Creator may have also spoke of, that we were to learn these things in order to help someone else. Because pain, he said, is the greatest teacher. When you feel that pain, you don't want to give it to anyone else. You learn how to release it and to help other people to get through their pains. And so from that, we created, because one of his helpers was a very violent man. And that's what he went to the most vicious people because he knew that their spirit was broken. And he raised their spirit back up. He gave them a purpose by sitting with them by the fire. That's what we've forgotten. That's our most important ingredients of helping, because that fire will help the men heal. That fire will help them, because this is why they use the purification lodge. The English word would be sweat, because we knew we had to purify them. There again is that water and the fire working together. And that birthing, because this is what happens, is that newness comes again. And it's through a lot of sweat and tears. Again, fire and water, the love. And so when he give us all these instructions, he give us tools to overcome. And our tools are still here today. A lot of you have it inside you, and a lot of you will start to remember. And so I know we get upset because we've had such traumas in our lives. I've had traumas. I've had life experience that made me lose my power for a while. But I remember creation story. If that woman can get back up and raise her children, I can do that. If this woman can go through all those things, I can do it. And that's what we talk about our mentors. You know, the men long time ago, the men, they went, when the visitors came, they went to those leaders and they told them, do not bring this gift into our, so we had a treatment center long before they did. We understood what that power did was to change their spirit and to change their names. And so one of the things is we are a human being, and these life experiences is our teachers, so that we would recognize, you know, when I was young, I wanted to be an elder. And my teacher says, well, you better be ready, because you're going to go through a lot of hardship. You're going to go through a lot of things. And it was so that I could understand. And that's why we have these things, so that we understand. And we can help other people. We can help bring change. And we can sit them up right again and not let them fall. So the fire does magic work, and the water does too.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. I believe we have a couple more questions that's up in our chat. Let's see here. So we got about 10 minutes left, so we'll do the last 3 questions. What is the most helpful thing that the federal government could do now, question mark, just abolish the Indian Act?
It's us. We need to pray for them, those in leadership. We need to pray for them, because they have been disconnected from their hearts. They're only thinking with their minds. So what we can do is we get together. Every time we get together is to pray for those that are in leadership, that they be connected to their hearts again. That they remember their original instructions too. That they remember that they came to this world not to create chaos and wars, but they came here to deal with being a human being and to create a better world. So this is what my grandmother taught me. She says, because when I was young, I was bullied just like everybody else in school. Oh, you know, you you're told, don't you fight. You don't need to fight to prove who you are. But the other part of me, my other twin, said I could have licked them. I had a long ways to walk home to my grandma's. The reason I had to go to my grandma's was I guess you would call it on loan. I'm the oldest of 12, and when a grandma needed help, my dad and mom would say, you go and stay with your grandma for a while. So I got to stay with my grandmas whenever they need. And so my grandma lived quite a ways from the bus stop. So I had to walk a whole concession and a half. And I thought I would be done with my anger. You know, walking like this, that's what we're told, to walk to get rid of the anger. And I thought I was pretty cool. I thought I had gotten rid of all of it. So I walked in the house and my grandma looked at me and she, oh, what happened today? You can't fool grandmas. They know right away. They feel. And so I burst out and I cried. My grandma says, come on. And that's when she taught me how to take care of myself. So my grandma went to the pantry and she got a full can. Then she went to my grandma, they recycle for the wars. And so we went and got an empty can. And my grandma took me outside to teach me a lesson. That's where all I got my lessons, always outside. And so she said, we used to have a place where we would burn the garbage. And she said, now, if I told you to go and put your hand in that fire, would you put your hand in there? I says, no. She says, that's what you do when you have anger. You put your hand in that fire and you're the one that's holding that fire and it's burning you. It's hurting you. It's going to hurt you. So what are you going to do about that fire you're holding on to? I said, I'm going to drop it. She said, well, that's it. Drop it. Let it go. And so she said, now I want you to understand that person. And so what happened was she had a long driveway and she's, what do you see? And you know, you don't get smart with your grandma. You're there to learn that lesson. And I said, I see two paths, because that's how it was. And I seen these two paths, and she said, yeah, that's how it is in life. There's always these two paths. One is the good path and one is the challenging path. Which one you going to take? What do you see on those two paths? And I said, well, I see stones, Grandma. She said, yeah, that's right. What kind of stone? She said. I said, I see some big ones and I see some little ones. She said, yeah, that's right. Because those are the challenges you're going to have in your life. You're going to either have to walk on them or walk around them, depending on what path you choose. And so she said, now I want you to listen. So she takes that full can and she rolls it on the driveway. She said, did you listen? Now I want you to listen to this one. So she grabs the empty one and she rolls it. And she said, what did you hear? Which one made the most noise? I said, well, the empty can. So Grandma picked them up and she says, these are the people that you're going to meet in your life. The one that make all these accusations and all these bullying, these are the ones that are empty inside. They're hurting. They're empty. They don't have what you have, and that is that love and caring. And so know that don't get angry with them. This is a time to be a human being and think of them. What is missing in their lives? What is missing? And so she said, no, I want you to think of them. Think of them in a good way. And she says, what made them feel that? What happened to them? And so she said, no, this is why we have the words, a good mind. She says, I want you to use your good mind and send over what they would call blessings today or prayers. Send over your good thoughts to fill them. And that's why we say, Guadalupe. This feeling that I have inside me, I wrap around you till we meet again. So all those people that are angry, this is why we are to fill their can, their emptiness with kindness and good words and all those things, because they've been empty. And this is why they cannot think in that good way. And so this is what she says, because you're going to meet a lot of people in your life that are like going to be this. And I have. And you know, one of those ones that was my bully, that's what I did right away. I thought of this person because we were in the same class. And so I thought of her. I thought, send her love, Creator. Send her love. Help her for whatever she's going through right now. Maybe something happened to her at home. And because of that, we are the best friends today. And we're in the 70s.
That's awesome. I think we got one more question. Let's see. So it says, many who are not Indigenous would like to be partners. What can we do?
What can they do?
Yeah.
Take care of themselves. In order to help someone, you have to be well. You have to come with a clear conscience, as they would say, taking care of your spirit. And that's what I tell, because I'm also an elder at McMaster, and I work with Ontario Federation of Friendship Centers, with the different schools and organizations, and that's what I tell the future doctors, the future people, professional workers. I tell them, you take care of yourself first, because we can pick up so quickly if you want to help us. Take care of yourself before you take care of someone else. And so right now I'm teaching, I'm sharing my knowledge with future addiction counselors through traditional methods. So this is what I'm doing. I'm not only is it Indigenous, it's non-Indigenous people. So they're getting this experience too. So this is where I'm helping all to reconnect, to be a human being.
That's amazing work, and yeah, I'm quite blown away. We are at 8:30, pretty much right on the dot. I think we will come to a close on today's program, and I'd love to thank you so much, Grandmother Renee, for being here, sharing your knowledge. It's beautiful, and I definitely want to continue personally more talks with you. You have so much to share. I have so much to learn. and you know, it's especially as well as for the men's center as well. So it's something that I will bring to you personally. And yeah, thank you so much again. And I also really want to thank our audience that came out and watched us on the webinar, as well as Facebook Live. Thank you so much, and we really appreciate it. We would like to continue to ask you guys to join us next week as well. We have a young, amazing woman named Nicole Joy Fraser. She is a 60 Scoop adoptee. She is going to share her journey with us as well, from the adoptions to finding her identity, to make it onto the Broadway stage and the big dance stages all across the world. So, which is such an amazing feat and such talent. And yeah, please join us. And again, thank you so much, Grandmother Renee, for sharing to everyone that came in to join us to listen. And I can't wait to chat with you again. So thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you. Miigwech. Ella.
Right. All right. Okay. So I'm not sure if this is over.